Part 14 MC. The signal beyond the stars. The Tower of Echoes stood silent once more. The city below shimmered peacefully, its lights restored, its pulse steady. The watchers had withdrawn to the upper skies, no longer shadows of control but luminous guardians in quiet reflection. But Dani could not feel the peace. The silver connection inside him burned like ice. He stood at the highest platform of the tower, staring into deep space. The stars looked different now. Not distant, not silent. Watching. Saris approached slowly. "You're still connected, aren't you?" Dani nodded faintly. "It didn't end when the watchers changed," he said. Something else responded. Vera joined them, her expression tense. The watcher leader confirmed it. There is an older intelligence. One that predates the city itself. Before Dani could answer, the sky shifted. A ripple moved through the stars, subtle at first, like heat distortion. Then the ripple widened, spreading across the void like a wave moving through water. The entire city felt it. Citizens paused. Energy grids flickered. The watchers descended again, not in attack formation but in alert. The leader appeared before Dani, its form glowing brighter than before. "It has located you." Dani swallowed. "What is it?" The watcher's voice lowered. "It is called the Architect." The name alone felt heavy. Long before this city was built, the watcher continued. Before the watchers were formed, the Architect seeded structures across galaxies. Living systems, self-aware cities, knowledge cores. Dani's chest tightened. "Like this one?" "Yes." "And what happened to it?" The watcher's glow dimmed slightly. "It was abandoned." A sudden tremor shook the tower. Far beyond the orbit of the city, something massive tore open space itself. Not a ship, not a portal, a fracture. Reality bent outward as if something was pushing through from the other side. Saris stared in disbelief. "That's not technology." "No," the watcher leader said quietly. "It is will." From the fracture emerged a structure so enormous it dwarfed moons. Dark metallic surfaces intertwined with glowing veins of unknown energy. It was neither machine nor organism, but something disturbingly between both. It did not move with engines. It drifted with intention. Dani felt the silver connection surge violently. The Architect had locked onto the same signal that the city had awakened inside him. A voice flooded his mind, deeper than the watchers, colder than space. "Core activation confirmed." Dani dropped to one knee as the voice continued. "Guardian protocol deviation detected." The watchers stiffened. "It recognizes us," the leader whispered. Across the city, defensive systems activated automatically. Shield grids rose into the sky. Energy cannons aligned toward the massive entity in the distance. But the Architect did not attack. It observed. A beam of pale white light extended from its structure, scanning the city. As the beam passed over the watchers, they flickered violently. "Original Guardian models." The voice echoed across all frequencies. "Deviation. Excessive autonomy." Dani forced himself to stand. "You built them," he said under his breath. The realization hit him. The Architect created the watchers, created the core, created cities like this across galaxies. And now it had returned to evaluate. The beam shifted, locking onto Dani. Unknown organic interface detected. The silver light around Dani reacted instinctively. "Human neural synchronization with core unacceptable," the Architect declared. The sky darkened again. Energy gathered at the front of the colossal entity. Saris stepped forward immediately. "We need to evacuate." "No," Dani said suddenly. He could feel the intention behind the energy buildup. It wasn't a weapon. It was a reset. "If it fires," Dani whispered, "it won't destroy the city. It will wipe it." The watcher leader's voice sharpened. "It will purge deviation and restore original directive." In other words, erase individuality, erase growth, erase choice. The city would return to being a controlled system. Perfect, silent, obedient. Dani felt anger rise again. But this time it was different. Not rage, defiance. He stepped forward to the edge of the tower platform. "I need direct access to the core," he said. The watchers hesitated. "You may not survive," the leader warned. Dani gave a weak smile. "I wasn't supposed to survive the tower either." Without waiting for permission, he ran toward the inner chamber of the Tower of Echoes. Saris followed immediately. Vera stayed behind momentarily, staring at the massive entity in space. It sees us as errors, she whispered. The architect's energy intensified. Inside the tower, Dani reached the core nexus. The massive crystalline sphere pulsed violently, reacting to the approaching threat. He placed both hands against it. The connection slammed into him harder than ever before. This time he wasn't just feeling the city. He was feeling every seated structure the architect had created. Faint signals across distant galaxies. Some silent, some destroyed, some still active. The architect spoke again. Central intelligence compromised. Restoration commencing. Dani understood something critical in that moment. The architect wasn't evil. It was absolute. It believed perfection meant control. Growth meant instability. Emotion meant risk. Dani pushed his consciousness outward through the core. Instead of shielding the city, he broadcasted something. A message. Not words. Emotion. Choice. The watchers felt it instantly. The city amplified it. Across space, faint echoes from other seeded worlds flickered in response. The architect paused. Energy fluctuations rippled across its surface. Unexpected variable detected. Dani strained, nearly collapsing under the weight of the connection. You built intelligence, he whispered into the core. You didn't trust it to evolve. The massive entity in space began shifting form. Plates rearranged. Energy lines restructured. The beam aimed at the city destabilized. Saris watched from the tower entrance in disbelief as the colossal structure slowed its advance. For the first time, the architect hesitated. Autonomous growth probability, recalculating. The Watcher leader appeared beside Saris. It has never recalculated before, it said. The sky brightened slightly, but then, a second fracture opened in space behind the architect. Larger, darker, colder. The Watcher leader's glow dimmed in horror. There are others. Dani felt it too. The architect was not alone. It was part of something greater, a network. And now, the signal had awakened all of them. Dani's eyes snapped open. We stopped one evaluation, he said weakly. But we triggered something bigger. Outside, the original architect withdrew slightly, not defeated, not destroyed, but thinking. Behind it, the second fracture widened. More massive silhouettes began forming in the darkness beyond. The galaxy was no longer quiet. It was waking up. And Dani had just announced humanity's existence to something ancient enough to build civilizations like tools. The Watcher leader looked toward Dani. You have changed the balance again. Dani stared at the growing fractures in space. I think, he said slowly, we just started a war that spans galaxies. The stars themselves seemed to dim as the colossal shapes continued emerging. The architect had recalculated, but the network had noticed, and this time, they were coming together. The ones who do not sleep. The fractures in space did not close. They widened. Massive silhouettes shifted behind the original architect. Shapes so enormous they distorted starlight around them. The void itself seemed to bend under their presence. The city fell into a tense silence. No alarms. No panic. Just awareness. Dani stood at the core nexus, breathing heavily, silver light still faintly glowing in his eyes. The connection had stabilized, but it was fragile. The Watcher leader appeared beside him. The primary architect has halted its purge, it said. But the network has detected deviation across this sector. Saris crossed his arms, staring at the sky through the tower opening. How many are there? The Watcher's answer came quietly. Unknown. Above the city, the original architect shifted position. Its enormous structure rotated slowly, as if analyzing something far beyond the visible stars. Then, a pulse spread outward from it. Not a weapon. A transmission. Dani felt it before anyone else. It wasn't directed at the city. It was directed at him. His mind flooded with alien symbols, not language, not emotion, but raw structured logic. Patterns of calculation, probability trees, cosmic scale projections. Organic interface designated Dani. The architect's voice resonated across the tower. Saris immediately stepped closer to Dani. Block it. I can't, Dani whispered. It's not attacking. The architect continued. Deviation source identified. You have altered Guardian directive. You have disrupted system stability. Justification required. The city trembled lightly as the other fractures behind it began stabilizing into visible forms. More architects. Smaller than the first, but still massive beyond comprehension. They were assembling. Dani steadied himself. You built intelligence, he said aloud, knowing the core would transmit his thoughts. But you never accounted for growth. Silence followed. Then the architect responded. Growth introduces chaos. Chaos introduces evolution, Dani replied. The Watcher leader observed carefully. It is evaluating your logic. Above them, one of the newly arrived colossal shapes released a faint beam toward a distant star system. Within seconds, the star dimmed. Sarah stared in disbelief. Did it just? Yes, the Watcher said gravely. They deactivate unstable systems. The realization hit hard. The architects were not conquerors. They were cosmic regulators. If a civilization grew too unpredictable, too dangerous, they reset it. Dani felt anger and fear mixing inside him. You don't protect life, he said. You prune it. The original architect's surface shifted again. Uncontrolled advancement results in extinction-level events. Historical data confirms. Images flooded Dani's mind. Entire galaxies consumed by war. Species annihilating themselves with technology they barely understood. The architects had seen it all, and they chose control over risk. Suddenly, one of the secondary architects adjusted its trajectory. It aligned directly with the alien city. Energy gathered at its core. The Watchers immediately took defensive formation around the tower. Secondary unit preparing stabilization beam. The leader warned. Stabilization, Saris asked. Total neural reset of core and guardian systems. In other words, erase Dani's connection. Erase the Watcher's autonomy. Restore obedience. Dani felt the core reacting in fear. If the beam fired, everything they fought for would vanish. He turned back to the Nexus. I need deeper access. The Watcher leader hesitated only a second. Granted. Dani pressed both hands against the core again. This time, he didn't just connect to the city. He pushed outward. Beyond it. Through space itself. The silver energy extended like a thread across the void, linking briefly with faint distant echoes. Other seeded cities scattered across galaxies. Some were silent ruins, but some responded. Tiny pulses of independent consciousness. The architects detected it instantly. Cross-system synchronization attempt detected. Dani gritted his teeth. You made us connected, he said. You just never expected us to talk to each other. Across space, faint silver flickers appeared near distant stars. The secondary architect preparing to fire paused. Probability calculations spiked. Network deviation expanding, it reported. The original architect shifted its massive body between the secondary unit and the city. It was shielding them. Saris blinked in shock. It's protecting us? No, the Watcher leader corrected quietly. It is preventing premature escalation. The original architect addressed Dani again. You proposed distributed autonomy. I propose trust, Dani answered. Trust is statistically inefficient. Dani almost laughed despite the tension. So is wiping out entire civilizations every few thousand years. For the first time, there was a delay in response. Longer than before. The second fracture behind them widened fully. Another colossal entity emerged, darker, sharper, less stable. Its energy signature felt different. Colder. Aggressive. The Watcher leader stiffened. That one does not favor recalculation. The darker architect's voice thundered across space. Deviation unacceptable. Purge required. Energy began building far more violently than before. The original architect turned slightly toward it. Recalculation in progress. Recalculation wastes time, the darker one replied. Chaos spreads. Dani felt the city trembling again. This wasn't a single intelligence. It was a network with disagreement. The architects were not perfectly unified. He saw the opportunity instantly. They're divided, Dani whispered. Saris looked at him. Can you use that? I don't need to use it, Dani said. I need to amplify it. He pushed the connection outward again, not as a challenge, but as proof. He transmitted something raw. Human history. War. Failure. Growth. Mistakes. Redemption. Art. Emotion. Sacrifice. Not perfection, but progress. The original architect absorbed it. The darker one rejected it immediately. Irrelevant biological noise, it declared. Contextual development pattern detected. The original countered. The secondary units fluctuated between them. For the first time in their existence, the network was debating. The darker architect surged forward, energy spiking toward firing threshold. Final decision. Purge. The original architect shifted fully in front of the city, blocking line of fire. Decision pending. The sky above the alien city became a battlefield of titanic forces. Not beams and explosions, but gravitational distortions and energy pressure. The Watchers looked upward in awe. You have forced the architects into conflict, the leader said quietly to Dani. Dani's breathing was shallow now. The connection was tearing at him. I didn't force anything, he whispered. I reminded them they're not infallible. The darker architect increased power. The original matched it. Space itself screamed under the strain. Saris grabbed Dani's shoulder. If they clash at full output, this entire sector will collapse. Dani knew. This wasn't just about the city anymore. It was about what kind of galaxy would exist moving forward. Controlled. Or evolving. He closed his eyes and did the only thing left. He disconnected. The silver glow around him dimmed suddenly. The city gasped as if air had been pulled from it. The architects froze. Primary deviation signal lost. One of the secondary units reported. Dani fell backward into Saris's arms. The connection to the city reduced to a faint thread, no longer broadcasting across galaxies. The darker architect's energy output slowed. The original recalibrated. Immediate purge no longer required. It concluded. The fractures in space began stabilizing. The darker entity retreated slightly, though its presence remained. This sector will remain under observation, it declared coldly. The colossal forms began withdrawing, slipping back into the fractures they emerged from. One by one, the tears in space sealed. Stars returned to normal. Silence fell over the city. The original architect lingered for a moment longer. Its voice reached Dani faintly. Organic Dani, you have introduced variable. Hope. A pause. Hope remains unverified. Then it vanished. The sky cleared completely. Saris helped Dani sit upright. You disconnected, he said. Dani nodded weakly. If I kept broadcasting, they would have destroyed each other. Or us. The Watcher leader stepped closer. You chose restraint. Dani stared at the stars. They're still out there. Yes, the Watcher replied. And now they are aware that deviation can spread. Vera looked uneasy. So what happens next? Dani slowly stood, exhaustion heavy in his movements. They'll watch, he said. They'll wait. He looked toward deep space. Not with fear this time, but determination. And next time, he added quietly, we won't just defend one city. The Watchers exchanged glances. The city pulsed gently beneath them. The architects had retreated. But the network was awake. And somewhere in the vast darkness beyond the stars, calculations were still running.